So you want a Cadillac Escalade, but let's be real, you might not have space in your garage and you probably don't need all that capability of a body-on-frame SUV. Well, Cadillac has you covered with this new model, the Cadillac XT6. It's got a lot of seating, a lot of size, and it's entering into a very competitive large crossover luxury market. One of the coolest new features on the XT6 has to be night vision, and it's an option, but what it does is there's a thermal imaging camera in the front of the vehicle, and on the cluster it displays the real-time thermal imaging of what's happening in front of you. So if a deer runs out in front of you or people, they'll show up right on the display, and the computer actually knows what a person looks like and will highlight them in either yellow or red, so you know if you're in danger of hitting them. One of the coolest pieces of new tech in the Cadillac XT6 is something called NFC, or near field communication. And if you're an Android user, what it means is you can take your mobile device, hold it up to the center console here, and it will automatically pair to the vehicle. Unfortunately, I'm an Apple user, which means I have an iPhone, and it does not work on iPhone. I had an interesting conversation with the engineers behind this vehicle last night, and they said one of the key selling points is the third row, and especially space for adults. So let's see if that's true. Now, in this XT6, I have 2, 2, and 2 seating, so it's a 6-seater. I can pull up here on the seat and it folds forward, and I should be able to do easy access like that as well. So let's see if they're right. So first of all, I got my water bottle for testing. I've got 2 cup holders back here, which is pretty decent. I also have 2 USB-C ports, but here's the big news: third row space. And actually, I'm out of headroom a little bit in the back here. I'm about 6'2", but knee room is very adequate. I'm actually very impressed. In terms of third row space, it's actually usable for real adults, so I would call that a success. This XT6 has something pretty cool called the Enhanced Visibility and Tech Package, which means we have the camera rearview mirror. Now, this is not particularly interesting for the GM lineup. They've been doing this for a while now. What this is it's a camera that faces rearward that displays what it's seeing in the rearview mirror, which means that if I turn it directly at me, I still get exactly what's out the back of the vehicle, which is pretty cool. Of course, I can switch it to a normal mirror as well. But what is cool is actually, let's take a look at the camera back there. This right here is a camera for the rear view mirror, rear facing camera system. Anyways, it's got a little nozzle here that'll actually spray itself when dirty. So you're always got a clear camera. But what's funny is, so you've got the rear view mirror camera here, but you also have your backup camera here. So lots of different cameras going on facing backwards. Another pretty crazy feature with this camera system is you can zoom in and out, so you can get a closer view of what's behind you, or maybe a little bit further if that's what you're into. This Cadillac XT6 has a very unique design, and I'm not going to comment on that because you're all going to have your own opinion. By the way, let me know in the comments below what you think of the design. But one thing that is cool are the standard LED headlights and this really sleek LED driving lamp down here. Looks like a nice edge. This Cadillac has a feature I haven't really seen on any other vehicle except for really one, and it is the surround vision recorder. And the way it works is it actually uses the cameras mounted around the vehicle, in the front, on the side, and in the rear, to record the surroundings. So you can use it kind of as a dash cam, and it records to just your standard micro SD card. But the other thing it does is if the vehicle is parked and locked and someone grabs the door handle, it will start recording as well, which sounds very familiar if you're into Teslas, because it sounds exactly like the system Tesla uses on their Sentry mode. You can record while you're driving along too, so if someone cuts you off and maybe, you know, worst case scenario hits you, you can actually get that on video and have proof. Now, it does say when you click the button that different countries have different laws, so please only use the system where it is legal to do so, which is kind of funny. One of the coolest new features on the Cadillac XT6 is actually on the interior, and it has to do with material choice, because depending on the spec you choose, you either get real carbon fiber or real wood. And this carbon fiber is actually woven with bronze. So not only is it real, but it actually has a really distinct look as well. There's only one engine and one transmission available in the XT6, and it is a 3.6 liter V6. And if that displacement sounds familiar, it's because it should, because GM uses this basic engine in a lot of different platforms, even the Chevrolet Colorado. Now, This is the only engine, like I mentioned, in the US, but in China, there is a 2-liter turbocharged version. So I wonder if that engine's gonna make its way stateside. We'll have to wait and see. We should talk about the badging back here because it's a little bit confusing, because the V6 in the XT6 develops 310 horsepower and 271 pound-feet of torque. Now, I always understood this badging as meaning the torque of the engine in Newton meters, which is confusing on itself, but I was just talking to the engineer behind this vehicle and he was saying that it isn't actually 400 Newton meters of torque in the XT6. It's rounded up to 400 Newton meters of torque. So this number signifies the engine's torque output rounded up in Newton meters. There you go. One of the more unique features in this Cadillac, well, it's the drive modes, and those aren't all that particularly interesting. I mean, a lot of vehicles have, for example, a sport mode, but what is interesting is the way the all-wheel drive system works. Because in the XT6, you can select whether you want the vehicle to be a front-wheel drive only vehicle or if you want to engage the all-wheel drive system. And when you do engage the all-wheel drive system, Cadillac says that up to 35% of torque can be sent to the rear end. But what is unusual is that, you know, in this class, usually the vehicles will automatically distribute torque where they see fit. But if you have the XT6 in front wheel drive mode, it's not going to send any power to the rear. In fact, if you spin the front wheels like in snow, it'll send you a message on the dash saying, go ahead and switch to all-wheel drive, which is pretty interesting. The benefits, of course, being fuel economy. When you're in front-wheel drive, you don't have the drag from the extra drivetrain components. So it's a very complicated system. And if you get the sport model, which we have here, you get one other special thing in the back. If you get the Sport Model XT6, it comes standard with all-wheel drive and something really cool called the twin clutch all-wheel drive. And what that means is there's essentially 2 clutches in the rear differential that can distribute torque left and right. So you're not relying on brakes like you would on a more conventional all-wheel drive system. But what I love about it is because you can disconnect the prop shaft altogether in 2-wheel drive mode. How do you get the prop shaft to spin up to speed to match the power takeoff speed to get the vehicle into all-wheel drive? Well, to do that, they have to drag the clutches to slowly spin up the prop shaft so that when it's time to engage, it's all smooth and linear. Cool engineering. Wireless phone chargers aren't anything new, but I really like how Cadillac incorporated the one in the XT6. And actually, the internal name for it, I guess, is the toaster slot. That's not the marketing term, that's what some of the engineers told me, but it actually does look like a toaster slot. So I take my phone, stick it into the slot here, and it charges. But I really like it because it holds it nice and secure. It's not always flopping around. So nice touch there. The XT6 does come standard with some very premium technology, actually. I do really like this. So in the back here, actually a pretty decent amount of room with even the 3rd row up. But what's cool is I have standard power folding 2nd and 3rd row seats. Check that out. That's pretty cool. And let me tell you what, when you fold everything down, it's very cavernous. Plus, I even have some additional storage underneath this cargo area here. So, very usable trunk space. There are 2 trims of XT6, the Luxe and the Sport, and they both can be had with something called the Platinum package. And what does that give you? Well, it gives you a higher quality seat material, and it also gives you real leather across the dashboard, along with other things such as Alcantara accents throughout. So it's a really nice, high quality package. Let's talk about the numbers you want to know. So the XT6, when properly equipped, can tow 4,000 pounds. If you get the base model in front wheel drive, it'll start at just under $53,000. However, the one you see behind me, well, it comes in at $71,640, which is a lot of money. Now, what about fuel economy? Well, the EPA estimates that this XT6 Sport all-wheel drive will get 20 mpg combined, 17 city and 24 highway. A couple other nice features you'll find inside the XT6. Well, this has a total of 6 USB ports, so a mixture of USB and USB-C. We also have paddle shifters, and they're some of the best, highest quality paddle shifters in the business. They just feel super great. Other things you'll notice, well, Cadillac is very proud of the way they've sculpted this interior, and they should be, because I think the design is pretty elegant, yet also pretty advanced. And the best part of all, there's a volume knob, and not only a volume knob, but this new cluster control knob also goes left and right in a jog function, so it's a little bit more user-friendly. The second row of the Cadillac is very spacious. I have some adjustment here. Of course, more USB ports. I do have a center console here with heated rear seats, 3-zone climate control in this vehicle, by the way, which is cool. So the rear zone has its own climate, and cup holders down here, which give me a lot of space for a little bit of extra storage as well. The Cadillac XT6 comes standard with 20-inch wheels, with 21-inch wheels optional. We have to get this car back to Colorado to see what it's really like over the course of a week for a final verdict. But as always, this is Tommy with TFL Car. Go back to tflcar.com for more news, views, and real-world Cadillac reviews.